I didn't know about apartheid. I didn't. And then I started mixing with people. It still didn't impress me. Until 1976, when the children in Soweto said enough is enough. And they started marching. And the young boy Hendricks was shot. And then the blacks in Cape Town started the same thing. And suddenly I saw these hordes of black people. Suddenly. How old was I in 76? I was born in 44. I was 32. And by now I'd had my 2 babies. And was living in a comfortable little 3-bedroom house with an accountant husband in the coloured area. And my life was honky-dory, lovely. Then suddenly I realized it was a shock for me to see all these black people. I didn't know my country had so many black people. And don't forget that internally, as they do when there's trouble in your country, they actually shut down news. So the people overseas see the news that we don't see there. So we don't even know what's happening across the bridge or in the other town, because the newspapers were terribly dubbed and banned. So we didn't know all this, yeah? And then I started talking with people and I realized, oh la la la, I had rather a nice life until I heard what's happening in the Langas and in the Guguletus, which were just there. You drive past it. On this side is the Khadijat township where they moved us and put us in. Steve Biko died the following year, 1977. Now he came from the Pan-African movement, I can't remember. Black movement. I can't remember what they were called, the Steve Biko movement. And then I started talking with people. And my consciousness came through academia. That's where my consciousness came from. Because now I had a chance to sit with people. And then we started, then I got recruited because I now was, really mixing with the students, involved in the ANC. And because I was a community person, I started talking with the women in the community, and we did underground activities like having cooking classes and then passing illegal banned material around to each other, organizing rallies and getting people to go to big rallies, which were also banned, because I think we were limited to 4 people. At the time, only 4 people could meet together, and any group bigger than that was banned. And that was my job, to work as a community activist in the ANC. And I was also a runner for bringing in banned material. But that's a big story, going across the border to Botswana and staying in safe houses and bringing back materials in the car. And the rally that was going to happen in Johannesburg, in Soweto. And I went out and I handed out the leaflets. So it was all by word of mouth, yeah? Because all our telephones were banned. And in those days, actually, you were guilty by association. Prosecution didn't even need to prove your guilt if they can prove that you were mixed with people who were already marked. So they brought pictures into court, and they tried to not be seen by anybody, meeting any of your own comrades. And that weekend, we were piling into buses. Now, this is all by word of mouth, to go to Johannesburg for the rally, okay? Now, the police didn't know about it. It was all underground, all And at night the buses left. From all over the country the buses went. Then the police found out about it. And they cancelled the rally. And we were just going through Free State, which is the Cape before you come into the Northern Cape. Sorry, through Northern Cape into Free State and then into Gauteng, they call it Transvaal province, which is about 1,000 kilometers away from Cape Town. Yeah? And just before we got to the border to cross over into Free State, the cops turned us around. And we had to come back. The meeting was banned and cancelled. Now the amazing, powerful result of that was that we were able, through our own system, it's called the Bush Telegraph, isn't it? But it's not really that. It is actually a very successful system of from street to street, from house to house, having a chain of communication. Yeah? So I tell you, you've got a duty, going to tell another 5 people. Your job is then to take it to blah, blah. Your job is to go and tell the church. So we had it all sorted. Within the night, we had sorted it, we'd redirected, and we got together in a different venue, and it happened before the weekend was over. Is that incredible or what? Thousands. That's a big thing for me. And the lovely thing was that we joked about it because all these petrol stations and businesses along the route were ready for us to come in and buy their sandwiches and all white owned, and all places that we couldn't use their toilets, but we could go in and buy their food and then get back into the bus, and they had to chuck their food away because we let them down. Oh, so the whole weekend we boasted about that, and how they came short and we didn't. Nelson Mandela was in jail, who had, we didn't know at the time, an Afrikaner God. Yeah? Now they are the sort of low-down people in our political opinion and experience. He smuggled out letters from Mandela to us. When Mandela knew we can have a meeting, he'd write his messages to us. Bless him. He actually carried the messages to us as the guard, the prison guard of Nelson Mandela. Now, is that beautiful or what? We didn't know it. But we got these messages from Mandela telling us what to do. Mandela wrote to us and said to us, and I remember this person reading it, that at the moment you have a recognizable enemy that's called apartheid, and you're going to crush it. But don't forget the debris that's going to be left behind when the mountain collapses has to be swept up. And that's what's happening with South Africa at the moment. And then I remember Madiba's words, the debris cannot be swept up within 25 years. It's not possible. Yeah? So we tumbled apartheid, but Madiba said, then you're going to get the real silent enemy. And that's the class system. He said it to us. Now remember that. You're going to have to fight money and class after that. And that is a much bigger, insidious enemy. And isn't that true? Look what's happening in our areas. Look at our black kids in London, south of the river. Look at what's happening because of the class system. Madiba said that to me, to us. He sent it out to us. Now, I was in my 40s then, and this is still ringing in my ears. So when they say to me, oh, has it changed? I'm thinking, but those people up in the mountain still own the big houses. They're not going to leave it to us, are they? They leave it to their children's children's children.
Mm-hmm.
So those big properties are always going to be reserved for the whites. Yeah, one or two of us might be able to buy into a smart area because we now manage to get money. But the townships all seem the township because nobody ever had anything to leave to their children. And the inheritance laws didn't touch them. But inheritance laws are protecting the properties for those who have. So you can see how deep Madiba's vision was, mm-hmm. and how it impacted in my life. The pressure that came from abroad was much bigger than we realized. Yeah? The boycotts, for example, boycotting the South African agricultural money, which was in the hands of the white, mostly farmers, mostly Afrikaner farmers. The boycotts that happened, the riots that happened, the marches that happened, we didn't even know about them. So the combined pressure from outside. And then I think that it would have cracked, and I think President de Klerk was clever enough to see that they cannot maintain it without civil war. Because civil war would have broken out. There's no question about it. Because as we became aware, so we became angry. And so we joined forces. We were all part of this evil system. It was evil, and we had no control. So we had to do something. If you continually punch, insult, kick a dog, surely the dog's going to stand up against you and use his teeth, you know? So to me, it's just a natural progression. I used to go and work with the COSATU, the trade unions in Zululand. And the reason why I did that was because I had the privilege of having a car. So I was a person who could go and take stuff and bring money back. And I was a runner, at that time, from Durban. And then I went to Johannesburg and I started law practice. I joined the law practice there, finished my law articles. And then my niece phoned me. She'd taken over my flat in Sydenham, in Durban. And she phoned to say, don't come back, the cops are crawling all over the flat. Now, lucky for us, we didn't ever speak with family about what we were doing. In fact, my family's still angry with me about that. You couldn't tell your children about what you were doing because they used your children to interrogate your children. In fact, there's a story, and it didn't happen to me, with a woman being in jail. And then what they did was, across on the other side of the field, the big cops walked with her daughter across the field just to intimidate her. So you try to keep your children and your family out of this. So my niece went into a total panic because these cops were all over the place. They were ripping my flat apart. So she said, you better not come back. Apparently, and I didn't know this, a comrade from Zululand had come and asked for a place to sleep, and she said, sure, of course. Because I'd said, sure, of course he can stay. He came and made a bomb in my flat, planted the bomb in a big mall in Amanzimtoti. It's called the Amanzimtoti bomb blast. And they traced his movements back to my flat and found evidence that he had made the bomb. He put it together in my flat. I never went back. Got straight on a plane and came to the UK. Because he was executed and people who were associated with him got like 30 years, 40 years in jail. So I wasn't prepared for that. I ran. Oh, sad times, eh?